Hello and welcome to Bible Talk with the West End Church of Christ. My name's Eric Krigg, and with me today is Cody Wilcox, and we're glad to have you joining us and studying along with us in another episode of Bible Talk. Now we're in episode number 18. We're going to be thinking about the phrase, if the Lord wills. And we want to invite you to get out your Bibles and follow along with us as we go through this episode. Turn to James chapter 4. As we get started. We're going to be reading a section here in James chapter 4, verses 13 through 16. But as we think about this phrase, really what we're talking about is our plans. How do we make our plans? We all make them, but there's some things that we're being taught here in this particular passage that needs to be part of our mindset as we make these plans. So, Cody, why don't you share with us in James chapter 4, verses 13 through 16.
It says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will travel to such and such a city and spend a year there and do business and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring, what your life will be. For you are like a vapor that appears for a little while, then vanishes. Instead, you should say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. But as it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil."
All right, so clearly we're being taught something in this passage about using the phrase, if the Lord wills, or sometimes you'll hear people use the phrase Lord willing, right? Same thing. So we're going to dive in this episode of Bible Talk just thinking about that phrase and what's significant about it and how should we use it in various things of that nature and how this impacts our plans and our thinking. Before we get into that, though, I want to just take a moment and invite you, if you can join us at any time to worship God. We assemble at 987 West Main Street in Newark, Ohio. Particularly on Sunday mornings at 10:30, we invite you to come and join us. Right now, with the pandemic, some of the other service times are not going on and are subject to change, but we are meeting at that 10:30 time on Sunday mornings. Come and be with us if you can. If you're curious about some of the other times, please get in touch with us. Or if you have a Bible question, please call us at 740-344-7954. Or you can email preacher@thewestendchurch.org. And we'll talk about it a little bit later. We have a free Bible study course we'd like to share with you. And so you can get that course in the same way, in the same information I just gave, or you can go to the website at www.thewestendchurch.org/Bible study and sign up at that point. I want to think again, as we consider this subject, if the Lord wills, right, we need to think about our plans. And I want to start by identifying what I would call an all too common error. Cody, what is one of the main problems when we make plans, and just kind of in general, what's the big temptation for us to fall into?
Well, I know for me, I will all the time just start planning all my days and weeks and months and years out, assuming things are going to go exactly how I think that they're going to go. And, we can be guilty of taking the assumption that God's not playing a role in that happening, where we just, we place too much emphasis on what we're doing to control this outcome. I need to be doing such and such to make this thing happen. And while it can be good to be prepared, we need to be careful taking our, being boastful, saying that we're controlling that outcome entirely.
Yeah. So certainly the Bible would teach us, hey, we need, plans are good, right? We need to be prepared, but we need to recognize the limitations of those plans and really what it boils down to is what we're able to control. That word control that you used, I think, is the key word, right? We often make plans, hey, what are you going to do tomorrow? And you just start listing, well, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go do this, and I've got this other thing I need to do. I've got this to do at work, and then the family and I, we're going to do this after work, and then these are our weekend plans, and these things are what we're going to do, right? And we're so used to hearing that we may not even think twice about it,
right?
But yet, control. When we're stating those things as a matter of fact, these things are going to happen. Then we're acting like we're the ones, and really the only ones who get to have any kind of input into what's going to happen in our lives. And Cody, what's the language that he uses? He uses some strong language here in James chapter 4. What does God call that kind of thinking?
Yeah, he calls it evil boasting. And, it might seem a little bit intense, but, it's not. When you look at, if you try to look at it through the lens of God, who is in control of all things, who created us, kind of looking at us trying to, be a little too big for our britches or whatever you want to call it, saying, we're confident that this is going to happen. I know that this is going to happen. It's boastful. It's arrogant. It's not placing our trust where it should be.
Yeah, I was just thinking about a parable that Jesus told over in Luke chapter 12, and a lot of the parables focused on, storing up treasure in heaven rather than on the earth, but it's in Luke chapter 12. The parable's told in about verses 16 through 21. But here's this rich man. His land was very productive, and he thought, well, what should I do since I don't have anywhere to store my crops? He said, I will do this, he says in verse 18. He said, I'll tear down my barns and then build bigger ones and store all my grains and my goods there. Then I'll say to myself, you have many goods stored up for many years. Take it easy, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself. Right, so here's this man making plans like we often do, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I've got, this is going to prepare me for many years. And again, nothing wrong of itself with trying to be prepared and proactive and making plans, but yet he was making them without God in the picture. He was making them as if he was in control. So God in verse 20 says to him, you fool. This very night your life is demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? Right? So he didn't realize, evidently, look, something can happen that's going to change all those plans. Of course, the moral of the story there is you need to have treasure stored up in heaven instead of on the earth. I think when we're talking about how making plans in this way is evil boasting and arrogance, right, we need to think about, all right, what's our plan A and what's our plan B? If we put plan A of, hey, this is all the stuff I'm going to do because I'm in control, we're being arrogant against God. We're boasting. Versus if I when we're using this phrase Lord willing, if the Lord wills, we're saying, look, plan A is whatever the Lord wills. And we'll get into some things that can cut all our plans short, in addition to any other number of things that can just come up to take our lives in a little different direction. Our plan B needs to be, all right, if the Lord wills, then here's the things I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And give him control.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So let's avoid that all too common error. Now, let's think about why we cannot count on tomorrow. There are really two reasons why we simply cannot count on tomorrow. So let's get started. What's one reason we can't count on tomorrow?
Well, we might not wake up tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's there's been countless families who have dealt with, tragedies of people passing before their time, or, whether you're young or old or sick or healthy, you never know when your time is. Something could happen to me on my way home to my house tonight. You just never know that. And so we can't count on tomorrow because we just don't know if it'll be there for us.
Right. Absolutely. And that's really what James is identifying here most directly in the text, right? He's talking about how you don't know what your life will be tomorrow. You don't know if it'll be there. Your life's so delicate, like a vapor that appears for a little time and then it vanishes away. So, and we need perspective about our lives. Put a pot of water on the stove and watch the vapor and how quickly it disappears. James says that's your life. The time you can see that vapor, that's representative of your life. It's very temporary. The scriptures teach us that there's an appointment that each of us have with death, but we don't know when that appointment is. It's so easy for us to get used to, all right, we woke up the last X number of days, right, X number of years, tomorrow's not going to be any different for us,
yeah,
and become complacent in that.
Yep.
So we need to recognize we may not be here tomorrow because we may die. And that's not just some kind of hyperbole. That's a real possibility for any number of reasons. But then there's another thing that may happen that may derail all our plans. So what's another thing?
Yeah, I mean, well, Jesus has promised that he will return one day, and that will all be called up. And it's in Matthew chapter 24, in verse 36. Jesus said, "Now concerning that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, except the Father alone." So only God the Father knows when this day is going to happen. And it's just, we would be boastful and arrogant, thinking we know that we have so much time before, Christ is going to return and call us all up. So we can't rely on that. We can't expect anything because no one knows.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what Jesus goes on to say there in Matthew 24, verse 44, is this is why you are also to be ready, because the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. So don't make your plans in a boastful, arrogant way, acting like Jesus can't come before this happens.
Right.
That yes, he very well may. And you and I have no way of knowing whether he will or not. So we have to take these things into consideration whenever we make our plans and be alert, be ready for this day. I mentioned, plan A, plan B. So often we make plan A, all right, this is all the things I'm going to do tomorrow. And then plan B, all right, maybe I'll die or maybe Jesus will come. We need to swap those. We need to, every day, we need to have the perspective. Plan A is, today's the day of my death, or today's the day Jesus is coming. Because if I set those as my plans, I'm going to be ready for that day. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, if that doesn't happen, then my contingency plans are, okay, I'm going to go to work today, and this is the things I'm going to try to do, and all these other things.
Yeah.
And even in that, we need to realize that, even our daily lives often don't go how we expect them to. Any number of things come up that derail our plans, so we have to take that into consideration as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've been thinking about this phrase, if the Lord wills. We got one more point I want to share with you before we close out this episode of Bible Talk. But I want to come back to our free Bible study course and just talk about that for just a few moments. We've got some free Bible study lessons on a wide variety of subjects we can mail out to you. So depending on what your interests are, where you're starting at, there's a course that's a fundamental course we'd like to send to everyone to get started, and we'd be glad to send that out to you. Every course is free. Every course will come to your house. Every course also has a video component to it if you would rather watch than read. So we'd invite you to take us up on this offer to have this free Bible study course mailed to your home.
Yeah, you can get that through emailing at preacher@thewestendchurch.org, or you can visit at www.thewestendchurch.org/Bible study. There's also a phone number you can reach to request that, 740-344-7954.
All right, and again, we'd love to send that out to you. One more point as we think about saying, if the Lord wills, or Lord willing, I want us to spend just a few moments thinking about what is the good that comes from saying, if the Lord wills. Cody, I'd suggest there's at least a couple of benefits from saying, Lord willing, right? Yeah. If the Lord wills. What's anything you can think of?
The first thing that came to my head is kind of what you alluded to. If you're saying, if the Lord wills, or Lord willing, I will do such and such a thing, it's putting the proper perspective in your head. It's reminding you every day, every time you say something that, this might not happen. My plans may not be what God's planning for me, and I need to acknowledge that. I need to keep that in mind. But another good thing I see that comes from it is the people who are hearing you say that, one, they know what your priority is. If I'm saying Lord willing, they're thinking, this man is concerned about God's plan for his life. He's acknowledging it. He's taking that into account. And also it helps them to think about, should they be doing the same thing? Do they need to be thinking about, not so much about their self and earthly things, but what God wills in their life?
Yeah. So all the way around, repeating this phrase is making people think about the fragile nature of life, the fact we're not in control, and the fact that we need to be ready for something else. And, that's good across the board. That's good for us to have that constant reminder, and it's good for us to make it a regular part of what we say. And, whenever we make plans, it's very good for us to have that perspective and to be vocalizing that. And it's good for others, as you mentioned as well. And maybe they, might take a little bit of interest in that. And,
Right.
Sometimes you even find people who kind of catch on to that, and they find themselves doing it a little bit more.
And it might be a talking point too. I mean, you might have someone that says, why are you saying that before everything you say?
Right.
It's like, and that might be the, open door you need to starting a conversation with a person, or getting them to look into it for themselves.
Yeah. And of course, this brings up the question, right? Do we have to say, is God telling us in that passage in James chapter 4 that every time we say anything about anything that might possibly happen in the future, that we have to say the phrase, if the Lord wills or Lord willing?
Yeah, I don't want to speak where the Bible's not speaking, but, to me, it's not so much literally that you have to say those words before every sentence. We'd be spending a lot of time saying, if the Lord wills, that way. But I do think that mindset needs to be present anytime you're talking. And, verbally saying those words can help you, keep that mindset. Do the actual words have to come out each and every time? I don't believe that's the case, but I do think that mindset always needs to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the people that we're talking to, right? I think we need to take into consideration, do they know that that's our mindset as well? Maybe the person we're talking with, they know that's our mindset. We do say it a lot, but, maybe, hey, we're going to run down to the store here real quick or something like that. But we need to keep this in our mind. And the more that we can work it into conversation, the more that's impressing it on us and on others as well. So we definitely need to take that opportunity. It's important for us to do that very thing. All right. Again, just great reminders for us as we think about this really sobering warning in James chapter 4. We're going to wrap up our study here today as we've been thinking through some things in James chapter 4. I want to leave with James 4 verse 15 again. He says, instead you should say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. If the Lord wills, your life will continue. If the Lord wills, your life will cease. If the Lord wills, the Lord will return. Right? We have to take all of these things into consideration whenever we make any plans and in our daily lives, and we have to make the proper preparations. Because if we don't make them now, then we'll find ourselves one day where we've made all these plans for the future. And then, like that man I shared in Luke chapter 12, right, that God's going to say, all right, that's it. And we're going to find ourselves spiritually bankrupt. And we don't want to find ourselves in that situation. To do that, let's keep reminding ourselves by this language, continue reminding ourselves about the warnings in scriptures about death and about the Lord's coming, and let's determine to be ready. Once again, we invite you to come and join us if you're in the Newark area at 987 West Main Street in Newark, Ohio, Sunday mornings at 10:30. We invite you to come and join us for that. If you have a Bible question, call us 740-344-7954. We'd love to hear from you, or you can email preacher@thewestendchurch.org. Or if you're interested in that free Bible study course we talked about, call us or email us again using the information I just provided, or go on the website at www.thewestendchurch.org/Bible study and sign up there. Again, we thank you for taking the time to study along with us, and we invite you to join us next time on Bible Talk.